Hey folks, it's me, John.
And I'm Joseph.
And guess what? We're here today with Board Game Talk. Joseph, what are we talking about today?
I'm going to be talking about board game mechanics. Well, at least the top 5. The ones I figure that most people are going to, basically encounter with the first couple of board games are the ones that are most popular. So,
No, that sounds great. So before we start, what is our board game of the week?
board game of the week. Well, actually, I got a couple of things here I'd like to highlight. I mean, the board game of the week is a game I just got. So I noticed this Alien Artifact.
Yeah, looks good.
It is a 4X game. Just have it open up, so I'll show you the components very quickly. It's a 4X game that is card based right here. You have these cards. I haven't opened them up yet, but basically, if you played Race for the Galaxy, it's basically it's a card driven game like Race for the Galaxy, and you use your cards. They tell you what your currency is and what you can do. But unlike Race for the Galaxy, in this you can build ships and actually fight like an AI opponent and your other players directly, unlike Race for the Galaxy. And it has race to it has like a faction card here.
Uh-huh.
You can see you have this faction, and then you have a couple like this character. Then you have looks like one of my favorite factions, the Star Union one. I just like the way that looks. Look at that. That's epic.
Nice. That looks cool.
It has two different side boards. So this is the male side, and this is the female side for those who want to choose. And then you have, of course, your score track right here. So yeah, no, it's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to playing it. I hope that I have a chance to. But before we continue, there's a couple other things I'd like to highlight. Carcassonne expansion out.
Ooh, nice.
For the Z-Man version, it's known as Under the Tent. Oh, yeah, Under the Big Top. And basically, unlike all the other Carcassonne expansions, which adds on to the main mechanics of the game, this one adds a couple new mechanics. If you remember the Rio Grande game or version of Carcassonne, they had this expansion called the Catapult, which when you draw a tile, it has a fail symbol on it. You draw it, and you get to take these tokens that have specific powers. The game comes with a wooden catapult. You get to flick these tokens onto the board. So it looks like what they did with this one is they went back. They kind of did that, but they kind of streamlined it or carried on with that theme. And you get to add, like, say, a tent here, big tent, and you lay it on there. And according to the rules, any meeples that's in range of that tent, you get specific benefits that tent or big top brings to the table. That's cool. Exciting. We have this now on the show. And another one we got very quickly. We got the new Ticket to Ride France expansion.
Ooh.
So I'm really looking forward to this. And this one actually is a double map. It has a like a Wild West version, where it's like on the California, Utah, that type of stuff. But the main focus is the as you can see, the French board right here. But the special unique thing about this one is, unlike all the other Ticket to Ride boards, you take these tokens or these routes right here. You see this? Mm-hmm. The routes yourself. You got to lay down the routes yourself before you lay down your trains.
Whoa!
So you're basically making the map as you go along. To be a very and because of that, you get to cut players off very easily because you don't know where you're going, and you get to basically mess somebody up. So it's considered to be one of the meanest maps of Ticket to Ride.
A little more directly competitive. I like that.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. But if you're looking for like simple family thing, I would stick with the USA map and the Europe map. So those games are those maps are more wide, so it's more family friendly for that. So, but yeah, those are the games we have, and we actually got a couple more. We got Small World in a 7 Wonder Duels, and Ticket to Ride Germany, and a couple of Pandemics copies. So come on down if you want to see new releases.
Sweet. Okay, so when we talk about gameplay mechanics, we said a little bit last week about gameplay mechanics. To you, Joseph, what is really compelling about gameplay mechanics to you?
Basic gameplay mechanics basically helps us. Really compelling is based on the mechanic. That's going to determine what your strategy is going to be during that game, because you got to have a lot of mechanics. For example, Carcassonne has a kind of a light area controlled mechanic, which means that you and the other players are fighting for control of a specific area. For Carcassonne, you have features on a tile, and as you build the feature out, meeples on features, and when they connect, you're trying to fight for control. So the more meeples you have like the most population on that feature. Therefore, you have control over it. You have other games like this. Twilight Imperium 4 is a good example. You have fleets that you're trying, specific hexes you're trying to control using your fleets, and you're trying to stay there as long as possible. In like one Twilight Imperium 4, you have the central hex you have to gain control, and you get points for as long as you control that specific hex, you get points for it every time that you control it.
Yeah, kind of like King of the Hill kind of style. So,
exactly.
When I think about gameplay mechanics, when I hear about what kind of game it is, that'll inform me of how I experience it. So, when you're saying Joseph that one has a hex control or one has King of the Hill style, what we're doing here is we're identifying the ones that we enjoy the absolute most, and then some of the games that go along with those mechanics. So, what's number one on our list? Hello? He might have crashed. He's the one that had the list, too. He might have sent me the list. Look, can you hear me? Hello? Nope. I'm wondering if this is me, actually. Alright. We'll do a little technical difficulty thing, and then we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're back. Success.
Okay.
Okay, so I think when you cut out, I was just asking you about what our number one on the list is.
Number one is card drafting, and it basically card drafting is it's a mechanic where you're given, of course, all these cards, and at the beginning of the game or throughout the game, you're picking up a hand of cards that is from a common pool. And you look at the hand first. If you're the first player, you get to have these set cards. You get to pick your one you want, but then you pass it down to the next player. He looks at it, they pick it, then you pass it on next. She looks at it, and you continue on until everybody gets a card that they want. Now, of course, there is strategies behind it. Some people may pick a card that they may not need, but they don't want the other player to have if they pick up what the other player is trying to do. And Magic the Gathering is actually, it kind of has a kind of an event was a card drafting event where people buy booster packs and they pick the cards they want from it, and they just pass it down to the next player. So you get to build your deck that way. So that's the first mechanic that I think will be one of the most common ones.
Nice. And then you said Magic. Is there another game that's on the board game shelf that would be a good example of that one?
I don't know. I mean, that's a.
I know. I'll put you on the spot there a little bit with all those games over there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So.
Nice. How about your number two?
I think one. Number two is set collection, and the game that I have, the representation I have for that is basically Star Realms. Has a feature in it, and if you haven't heard of Star Realms, it's a deck building game where you are trying to fight and just beat your other opponent. You both are given 50 health, and you're given a tableau of cards. You get a set starting hand of cards that help you buy more powerful cards. Well, in Star Realms, you have 4 factions, and each of these factions have what's known as ally abilities. So, for example, if you buy a yellow card, they have a special power that activates if you have another yellow card in your hand when you play it. So the objective here is to buy more of that specific faction to get combos. You can get those special powers that those cards offer. So that's what's known as a set collection. So you're just trying to collect sets of cards, and you're trying to basically just play, basically utilize the all these special powers. So I know the games have set collection too. So, but that's that's the second
what
one
interested
right
me about the strategy behind Star Realms, and Emily, she's our one of our champions that was did a champion at Dragon Con 2 years ago, and she actually has a card with her likeness on it, which is really cool. But one thing that fascinates me about like Star Realms, Hero Realms, where you're building up your sets as you go, your opponent can see what you're buying. So like if I'm buying a bunch of red, which in Star Realms is more of like a power, and then it also allows you to discard some of your previous cards in your hand and such. If they know that, then the other player, you know, if I see that you're doing that, like Joseph, if you were doing that, I could then, you know, counter that strategy if I saw you going hard with red. If I start seeing you do multiple different ones, I'm wondering, okay, you know, he bought that card, and then as soon as he bought that one, he bought one that didn't seem to have anything to do with it. So what is his strategy here?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty cool.
So,
pretty cool.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I enjoy Star Realms. Just it's a great strategy. And Hero Realms, we just like I said, we just got the campaign deck. We play the campaign deck. It's really fun. So
Oh, yeah. It's very fun. Number 3.
Number 3 is worker placement, and the number one game that people are pointed to or people suggest to get is what's known as Stone Age, and worker placement is it's basically a really used. Heavily used, I'd say heavily, but it's a well used mechanic. And in not Star Realms, in Stone Age, basically you have a map, and it's still in the Stone Age. You have a map, and you have these meeples, and you have different sections in the map that have spaces where you can place your workers. And you may have, like, for example, the woods, or you may have the quarry, or you may have the fields, like you're basically mining, or you're cutting down the wood. And according to how many you lay down the pieces, you get to roll dice, and according to a mathematical small little thing they do using math, it determines how many resources you get. And of course, you get those resources to buy special power and to get the most of this item to help you get the most victory points. And worker placement is also found in games like we have another one that's called Lords of Waterdeep, which is a Dungeons and Dragons version. That is worker placement. And then you have another one that's known as the Manhattan Project. I find this mechanic popping up more. The mechanic, you just place some meeples down and they get you resources, or they get you special powers. A Feast of Odin has a worker placement mechanic in it, so that is definitely one of
why do you think games are using that more?
Why do I think games? I just think it's because it's a solid mechanic. It's a fun mechanic because you're basically you're taking a pool of meeples or a pool of workers, and you're trying to distribute them. It's it's division of labor basically. And you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I need the most of? You're dividing your workers up. And it's just fun to be able to do that, and that's determining how much resources you get. Instead of rolling dice to relying on luck, you are actually determining how many resources you get by how many times you lay the workers down.
Interesting.
So I think that
in Stone Age they have the roll that determines how many workers you get. But
not how many workers you get. You play the workers down. You roll the dice to determine how many resources you get, based on how many workers you have in that location, and determining other factors.
Okay, that's interesting. One key element of any board game is randomness. We talked about RNG last week, and how if you have a dice or if you have a deck of cards, no matter what, because a board game always uses the same set of pieces, it's usually difficult to. You don't want to have the same experience over and over again. Like certain games have set progressions and whatnot, but oftentimes you try to randomize it as much as possible. Within reason. A lot of playtesting is involved with that.
Okay, it's very important. Yeah, it's definitely very important to playtest your games and to make sure that you have different sampling sizes to play, or groups to playtest your games. So that was number 3 on the list.
Nice.
So number 4 we have is pretty much one of my favorites is Press Your Luck. And the game, and this mechanic is basically, if you know blackjack, The rules of action are simple. Each card is given a specific value, and the goal is to get to either 21 or just up to 21 without going under. If you go under, you bust. And a game that came out recently that we have, or we have a demo copy, and we have is known as Hot Shots. The theme of this game is basically you are firefighters fighting off forest fires. This game is you get a set of dice, about 6, and you have these hexes that have the dice symbols on it. And you have different symbols that symbolize different things. And the objective is to match the symbols that are on the dice on the symbols that are on the hex. You get only a specific amount of rolls to do it. And the rule is that if you roll the dice and you have to at least match one symbol from your roll to the hex. If you do that, you get a specific special power, but you also get to roll. But if you don't get any of the symbols, you bust and you lose, the ability to fight a fire.
Ouch.
So the more symbols you get, the more special powers you have. And the objective of the game is, of course, to eliminate or to get all. They come with these fire tokens, and you have to basically eliminate all the fire tokens from the board. So that is a good example of a Press Your Luck.
Mm-hmm.
Press Your Luck is a game that I own. That's called, I think, Dead Man's. I think it's a card game. Dead Man Tells No Tales, something like that. It's a pirate game. And basically, the object is that this is also a perfect example of set collection game. And you're trying to collect sets, and each of these cards have special powers, and you can use these powers to get you more cards. But the idea is that you're trying to draw cards, and you're trying to make sure that you don't get 2 of the same cards. So if you get 2 of the same cards, then you bust and you lose everything.
Wow.
But the more cards you get of the single one, the more power, the more points you get, and you get points according to how according to the values. And I have it on Steam, and I was able to get like the max amount of points once. So I find it to be a very fun game for Steam, and I actually have a copy of it at home. So that's a perfect example of Push Your Luck. And other games have that too. Like I don't know if Elder Signs would be considered Push Your Luck.
No, that's Yahtzee. That's more Yahtzee, right?
Yeah. So that's pretty much Push Your Luck, and that's a mechanic that's found.
Oh no, I mean I guess Elder Signs could be Press Your Luck in the thought that the more difficult the task, like you don't get more dice to roll with Elder Signs.
Yeah.
You can press your luck in terms of choosing a more difficult, objective to do.
If you press your luck in the sense that if you roll the dice and you don't get a symbol, you eliminate one of the dice from the dice pool, and you keep on rolling until you're out completely. So there's a press your luck element to it if you don't get the dice you want. So, but I don't think it's as heavy as the other ones I mentioned. So but that's number 4 on the list.
Nice.
And last but not least, we have number 5, which is known as a programmable movement. And a couple of games have this. The ones we have in stock that's known as that is X-Wing, Star Wars, but it's Star Wars Armada. And it's basically, it's a miniatures game. We've both played it. And the programmable movement means that before each turn, you get to control a fleet of ships. And before the ships happen, you get to pick the actions these ships to take. And that's what's known as programmable movement, is you do it before your turn is up. So you may be able to pick 3 moves down the road. So you may say, okay, I want to move my Star Destroyer in range. I want to send a signal out to my fighters to attack, or I want it to repel. So that's 3 moves that you've chosen to do. And once you pick those actions, you carry those actions out, and you can't change it after that.
Right.
Unless there's a card that gives you a special power.
The idea behind that mechanic is to simulate chain of command, stuff like that. A large Star Destroyer takes a while to get commands through it, right? But a fighter craft, they can instantly just, someone says, oh, pull left and go attack those guys. Well, he just goes and does it,
Oh, yeah.
What's another?
Yeah.
Another game? Dracula has a similar one, right?
I don't know if Fear of Dracula has one, but I know there's one game that has one. It's a very popular game. It's called Robo Rally.
Okay.
These robots fighting one another, and you do the same thing. You program your movements, and then you carry those movements out. So it's one of them. And another one we have is the X-Wing miniatures game. It has a programmable movement in it too.
Mm-hmm. Right. Fury of Dracula is Dracula. You lay down cards, and they eventually. If you make it with a vampire after 5 turns, they mature and become a fully fledged vampire. That kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's good. So those are the 5 ones I think that are the most under the most of. I mean, the last one more in the games like Star Wars Armada. So, but there's a couple other lists here
Yeah,
that
let's do a couple more. Why not?
Yeah. So let's see here. I think another one that I know of would probably be let's see here. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Yeah, what are y'all that are watching? Some comment in your favorite mechanics. I think for me, anything with less randomness involved. I do like the choose your own dice things that like Dice Forged, dice forging games where you can create your own dice. That seems pretty cool to me. You can increase your odds by a little bit or a lot. So for a 6-sided dice, you always have a 16.6667% chance of getting any one number. So with a game like Dice Forge, you have 2 6-sided dice, and you tend to roll both of them. And every time you buy a new thing, a new side of your dice, it increases your odds. I guess not odds. It increases the amounts you get when you do hit that side. So one of your ones you can buy is like get 6 gold. So you still have a 1 in 6 chance of getting it, but when you do get that one, you get 6 at once instead of, I don't know, 1 at once. So I like that mechanic a lot.
Another mechanic that you may encounter is known as hand management.
Ooh,
and it's almost self-explanatory, but basically the idea is that the player is given a specific amount of cards, and you have to lay the cards down in a specific sequence in order to optimize the highest amount of points. And so I'm trying to figure out what games would be, probably Race for the Galaxy would be known as hand. So you're given abilities to have a tableau. The game is basically whoever gets cards first is the winner, and you pick cards by drawing cards from the deck, and you have to use your cards that you have in your hands to lay down a card. So you're spending your currency is the cards in your hands. So the hand management part is we must deciding what you want to do. If you want to have more development cards, or you want to settle more planets, you basically have to lay down these specific cards in order to accomplish this goal. That's one example of hand management. Another one mechanic is a trick-taking game, and that's usually you find these things in the form of small, quick little card games. We played one, 8 to 9s. Have a central card, and everybody is playing cards to win that card. So the card that's the highest wins, or has this, or what if you play a special power, you get that. So that's a trick-taking game too. So I mean, there's a whole list of mechanics out there. Oh yeah, for sure.
We don't need to go through all of them. I think that covers like a solid top 8, 9, 10 amount. That's good. So next week's stream, we're going to be talking about upcoming releases and things that we're looking forward to board game wise. There's a whole bunch of stuff out on Kickstarter, but also some things coming out on retail. So we've compiled a list of our favorite that are coming out. I think we'll restrict it to like the first half of 2018, because oftentimes you'll get announcements toward half of the year, and then around the middle of the year you'll start hearing announcements for what's coming out for the rest of the year. But off the top of your head, what's one of your favorite board games that's coming out soon, Joseph?
Coming out is probably Star Wars Legion, to be honest. I mean,
that's a war game, but I'll take it as board game. It's fine. It's going to be your first big foray into wargaming.
Maybe, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Absolutely. I mean, Star Wars and its miniatures game, so I'm looking forward to that.
Nice, and you'll get to paint it too.
Oh yes, now you're learning how to paint too. That's gonna be a process.
For sure.
I have a lot of experts surrounding me who's gonna give me
You have literally decades and decades of experience all around you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm in good company.
Nice. Awesome. Cool. Thanks for joining us, y'all, and we will see y'all next time.
All right, bye.